Okay.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everybody. Just so you know, we haven't had a meeting in the public for a while. My name is Dave McDonald. I am now the chairman of the sewer the commission. With me is Brett Ramson, who's also a new member. You have Mike Knoll, John Reynolds, and of course, Carl Luck. What I'd like to do is do a roll call to confirm that all members, persons that anticipate the agenda are present and that can hear me. All members, I'll call your name and just respond by either yay or affirmative. Mike, no, we know he's here, back. John Reynolds is calling in. Brett Ransom,
Hello? I'm here.
can you hear me, Brett? Carl Luck,
Present.
okay, Heather,
Yes, here.
Jack Rodigans.
Here.
Barbara,
I am here.
and we know Jane, our everlasting secretary, is on the line. Anticipate, and this is how, again, this is a new world for me, and as far as everything, how these meetings are conducted. But we're going to anticipate speaking on the agenda. Please respond in the affirmative. State each anticipated name. Introduction, that's me. I'm reading as we go along, guys. Like I said, I just got this. Good afternoon. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and this meeting of the Sewer Commission is being conducted remotely. The town of Lunenburg, in response to the COVID-19 COVID virus, currently is following the guidance of the Lunenburg Board of Health, Massachusetts Department of Public Health, and the CDC regarding the virus steps communities can take to prevent the spread of all the town facilities that are currently closed to the public. In accordance to the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law C-38, Section 20, all public meetings are to be conducted remotely. An order which we can find posted at the town website on COVID-19. Information Center pages access through the town manager's website allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely. So as long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along in deliberations of the meeting. And certain public access do not ensure public participation unless participants are required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For the meeting of the Sewer Commission to convey the video conferencing via the Zoom app as posted on the town website, identified how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and some of the attendees and participants by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that any folks may be able to see you and that take care not to share screen share. Your computer, anything that is broadcast may be captured by the recording. A couple of the ground rules we like to do. Now that we are turning for the first items of the agenda, before we do so, please permit me to cover some of the ground rules and effective declare, conduct business, and ensure accuracy of the meeting. One, I, the chair, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each of them to provide any comments, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name has been called further. Please remember to mute your phone on the computer when you're not speaking. Before I go on, that's up to you. And Heather, has that been working out? I see a lot of people forget they're on mute. Is that okay? We just keep it open?
Yes, I think with the participants right now, I think you're fine with just keeping it open.
Okay, so to be clear, don't keep hitting your mute button because that's kind of, you might get lost. So just keep on going what we're doing now.
And if
All right.
anyone has any background noise, I would suggest they either turn off things in the background.
Thank you for reminding me.
Hey, I was watching that.
You know, I forgot. Okay, thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
For any response, please wait until the chair yields you the floor and state your name before speaking. If members wish to encourage and dialogue with other members, please do so through the chair. Take care to identify yourself. Do we have any questions so far on anything of that?
All good.
Anyone? Okay. The first one, if you have your agenda, everybody got a copy of the agenda? First one is announcements. During this time of COVID-19, we hope that everyone is safe and healthy. Barbara, I'm going to let you talk about the next one, the change in the metering. You there, Bob?
I got it. This is just we were going to try to announce this every televised meeting, that the irrigation meter policy goes into effect on August 1st. And in order to continue to participate, there's the word, in the irrigation meter credit, everyone in the program needs to replace their readers with a radio capable head. So just FYI, you still have a little while. We've gotten about 10 or 11 people that have replaced their meter heads with radio capable equipment. So we need about 40 more. Or let us know that you're withdrawing from the program, so we just don't even bother to ask. So, okay.
Okay, I'm going to bring it around the room. Jack, do you have any comments to add on that?
I don't. Thank you.
Okay, let's go with Carl. Carl, any comments on that?
No, thank you.
Just to let you know, I'm going to go across by my screen what you are, so it's not to pick out, this is the way you are laying out on the Brady Bunch. Mike, any comments on the metering?
I think I'm good.
Okay, Brett?
Mike looks short.
Okay, and again, John will be calling in, but we don't need a vote for that, right, Bob?
No, it's just an announcement.
Okay. The other thing is, and I want to go right into public comment. And hold on one second. Give me 1 second. Get my
How's
thoughts
that,
in.
Brett?
Way better, Mike.
Okay, let's go with
Go with the
public
picture.
comments. And again, I'm gonna go around and ask. So let's just start with Carl. Carl, any public comment?
No, thank you.
Mike?
All good.
Brett?
I'm here.
Any public comment?
No comment.
Okay. Jack?
No, thank you.
Heather?
No, thank you.
Barb, I'll leave it up to you. Any public comment?
No, thanks. I'm good.
The last thing I want to say for public comment is, as the chair of the commission, I want to thank Jack and Bob for taking care of the business. I also want to thank Heather. As we get into this agenda, you'll understand why and what we're doing. And we have someone else coming on. Heather, do you see that? I think that might be John. PAX.
I would just
Yeah.
ask them who they.
I would like to second that public comment.
Is John there?
You might have to unmute him, Dave.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. John, you there?
Yes, I'm here, but I lost the pictures.
You know, again, the bottom left-hand corner, if you look at that little camera, just tap that.
I don't have that bar.
You got to move your hand around.
There we go. Okay. Oh yeah, I have to take the electrical tape off my camera.
Good. You may want to leave it on.
I don't see myself yet.
Keep on playing with it. Okay, again, and public comment, I just want to say, I can't thank Jack and Barb and Heather enough for keeping the business going. I know it's been tough for everybody. And I know that as far as myself, I know I've been making some decisions and I really haven't got a chance to tell you why or what. It was all good for the business and we kind of consolidated the business to let these guys do their jobs. Hey, John, I see you now.
Hi, John.
So what I want to do for public comment is, one thing is thank you guys. Thank Barbara, Jack, and Heather for what you are and what you've been doing. It's very much appreciated, not only for what you're doing, but for the town. That's all I have for public comment. John, do you have any public comment?
No, just, we don't have any line items about spare parts. It's just a concern I have right now, giving the drawing up of some supply lines, but it's one of my concerns in general.
I would recommend that we put that on a future agenda. Bob, if you can throw that on a future meeting,
Yeah.
we can talk about it. Any other public comment? Okay, let's move on. Next on the agenda is current business, and we're talking about SWSS. As you're all aware, SWSS last day was last week. And I know, again, this is another area that timing was everything, but in the long run, I think there's a shining lining in this cloud. So one thing I want to talk about is SWS in accordance to the agenda, is I don't even want to talk about SWS, what's going to happen, where are we going? I think that's something we could talk about after and bring it up in executive session as well. Does anyone have any feelings on that? Chuck?
Well, I don't think it's important how I feel about them right now. I think if there's any legal ramifications to what they've done, I'll let others take care of that. Right now, we have another vendor on board and hopefully have made a seamless transition.
Okay. Carl?
I think at some point, I don't think we need to get guidance from legal, but depends on where our costs go for us this year. I'd be very interested in keeping on the back burner here that if there's any way to recover excess costs to make sure our budget year ends well, we should keep track of that.
Okay. Mike?
Kind of echo Kyle. I think it really got out of control at the end there. So just if we have any, legal, I'd kind of like to see it, get something back out of it. There was a lot of money spent.
Brett? Brett?
Yes, mostly I'm gonna think about that. I'm not ready to comment on that right now.
Okay. John?
Well, yeah, obviously I'd like to see us recover as much as we possibly can. I know legal fees can add up pretty quickly. So I guess I would value Adam's input before we go too far about how long of a process this could be.
Bob, your opinion on it?
I will await whatever your decision is. I do agree that with John about the legal costs, and I do remember hearing that from Adam that the commission doesn't necessarily have the authority to go into litigation. It would have to be the selectmen would have to approve it. But I mean, it would be all by your recommendation, I'm sure.
Okay. And Heather, before I turn it over to you, I just want to say that I would look into it after in an executive session only. I think this is the last time we should talk about SWS on the air, and whatever our next move will be done in executive session. That would be my recommendation to you, Heather. So your comments on that?
I have no comments at this time.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify my comment because it wasn't very clear. The cost that I would mostly be interested in tracking is we may experience because we've had to fill the void with a new contractor who's new on the scene, and it's basically a time and material contract. The cost for the rest of the year may exceed what the small water cost should have been. And the cost that I would be looking to be made whole for, nothing going backwards, but simply going forward. If our new contractor ends up costing us a lot of money, I think we should be looking at that. And as far as legal costs go, I understand, but we do have a fixed price with legal, so we shouldn't be solely making decisions based on that.
Okay. Carl, can you move your microphone closer, or is everybody having a hard time, or is it just me?
Yeah, it's shaky.
He's in and out.
Very shaky.
Yeah.
I mean, Carl, that happens on a
I
lot of
don't
your
have a
other
separate
meetings.
microphone. It's embedded in the computer.
You gotta speak from
Let
the
me try to turn-
diaphragm. Still there?
I don't think it's just the microphone. At least from my perspective, he's going in and out or stopping and starting.
Yeah,
Is that any better?
a little bit. Say something.
Something.
Yeah, that's, I can hear it better.
Okay.
Okay.
I heard something.
That was it.
Okay. Let's move on. Any other questions on the last thing, and we're gonna move on? Next one is the discussion about Kyle Luck's email on February 28th regarding SWS contract. I think we've all beat that to death. I'd like to just skip over that. Kyle, do you feel satisfied?
Well, I just want to clarify why I believe it's on there. It's not really to discuss the email. It's more to cover our butts regarding open meeting law or potential open law violation when that email was distributed to the entire conservation, to the entire sewer commission. So that's why it's there, to make that document a public document in case there is any subsequent complaints about an open meeting law, because that should not have been distributed to the commission. I believe that was there, not really to discuss the content of the email.
I understand that, but I think, like I say, I think we can put it to bed, but that would be up to you. But as far as I'm concerned, I think we put that issue to bed.
Yeah, no, it's not about the issue, Dave. It's about making that document a public document so that there's no open meeting law
Okay.
violation. Which
Any other
this
comments?
does, so I think it's done.
Okay, very good. Then I'm not even going to bring that out for comments. We're done with that. Let's move on to more business. I'm very happy to announce what's been happening, and I'm going to give this to Jack to talk about our new company. Jack, it's yours.
The name of the company is Chad Empey LLC. It's owned by a father and his son. That's their last name, E-M-P-E-Y. They have one other employee. It's Al Packard. You're all familiar with Al. I think we were very, very fortunate to get Al on board. As soon as I called him, he understood, of course, what was going on because of his family association with small water. And he jumped right in, landed running, started making repairs. We had two semi-major repairs that he handled. I've called him on three different occasions. He came right away within an hour. He seems very happy to be back with us. As far as I know, the contract has been consummated. The rates of pay are on there. Just yesterday late, and I thought it was too late to share it with the commission, he took it upon himself to go to each pump station and made comments on each pump station. It looks to me like, the detail that he had might not have been, in terms of a capital plan or anything, but things were somewhat in disarray, disconnected, dirty, unkept, and he had a plan moving forward. He's also made a recommendation about the West Street Station in terms of how the impellers may have been damaged by the wipes and the rags that have been going down there on a regular basis. But he's under contract. As part of the contract, the language in it and the understanding is that he will stay on until we get our RFP underway, get it out to bid, and get a new vendor. If that vendor's him, I think that'd be great. But I don't think we really could have been in a better spot right now as we moved from small water back to Al. And I know with everybody on the commission, they were happy with Al's work throughout the years. We're sorry to see him leave. And if he hasn't missed a beat, if the way he communicates with me, he calls me almost daily now, is indicative of how it's going to be moving forward. Very pleased to have him on board.
Thanks, Jack. At this time, I'd like to bring the board in. If you have any questions with Jack, we'll start with Carl.
No questions. I didn't know anything about this contractor and looked online, and I wish they had mentioned Al's name online, because I would have felt a lot better right away. So that's really good news that Al's back. There's not so much questions for Jack, but I do have some concerns about the contract. They're somewhat lessened because Al knows what we expect and what we're there, but I do have some concerns. And maybe since this contract is essentially the same as the one going out to bid, I could defer the concerns to that discussion, and then loop back if we think there's anything important. And depending upon Al knowing what we expect and, for instance, what data to take in the pump stations, because we don't mention some things specifically that are very important, like the runtime isn't mentioned in the contract. So I guess I'd defer those, and if we go through the contract later, then maybe loop that back around to Al. My only other concern that maybe Heather can address, and I understand the time is of the essence here, and it's good job to get Al back on board, so that there is no gap. But I'm a little concerned about the process. Not clear to me how we issue tract without the sewer commission meeting, reviewing, and voting on it, since it's a contract between the sewer commission and the supplier. So how does that work? Do we need to patch that up today or what?
Heather, Jack, let me take a crack at this. First of all, Carl, on the hiring of the new company that we got on board, that's done through a service agreement that we set up to keep the sewer system going. The other one is, as far as the contract itself, if you look at the hourly rate, I know Barbara ran some numbers, the rest of the contract that we would have had at SWS, looking at the hourly service, we should not exceed that number. Is that correct? And if we do, by the way. I mean, it is what it is at this point. But Bob, are you online with what we talked about with this company, or Jack?
Yeah, I think both Jack and I agreed that we created a purchase order for the contract amount really remaining with Swiss, which was about 25,000. So that's our hope and intent, that it should not be more than that.
And if it does go over, it goes over. I mean, what we have to do is get the new RFP on board, which is what's up next on our agenda. And as far as authorization, I know I talked to Heather, and Heather, let me know if I'm wrong. This is a partial service contract to handle us during the COVID-19 disease. There are some things we have to do. There's no way we can get the whole board online when this went down. That's how fast this went down. Same thing what's going on in the economy, same thing what's going on in people's lives. Everything's happening fast. So again, at the beginning of the meeting, I applauded Jack, Barbara, and Heather for doing exactly what had to be done in business. But you do have a copy of the contract, and I think you're a little bit incorrect, Carl, to say it's the same as the RFP, which we're going to get into in a second. But those are the reasons why they did what they did. I hope that answers everything for you.
Well, it does, except again, I'm happy where we are. I'm happy we got Al on board, so I think that the Jack and Barb and Heather did a good job of doing that. I just, as you understand, I'm a stickler for detail and process. And it seems to me that, we could have met 2 weeks ago. There've been Zoom meetings for over 2 weeks now, that we should have this discussion a week ago, so that we could have reviewed, approved the contract and issued it. I understand COVID, but I don't think there was a need to go outside the normal procurement process on this. And maybe just the last question. So if I interpret the contract, it's strictly a time and material contract, right? There's nothing, it's strictly time and material. When they go to visit the stations 3 times or whatever they feel is necessary a week, they simply charge us time and materials. Is that right, Jack?
That's correct.
Okay, great.
I'm going to open this up to other board members. Mike, any comments?
Yeah, I'd first of all like to say kudos to both Jack and Barbara from this kind of came on us real sudden, and then all of a sudden the virus on top of it. So I think you guys did a great job. I'm very, very happy to see Al on board. I know we can't predict how it'll work out as far as, once we put it out for bid, but I hope that it works, that we can get him in the future. Personally, I feel the beginning of the problems is when Al left and was replaced, which had nothing to do with us, obviously, but Al was really, really good at maintaining and keeping things going. So, and that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Brett?
Yes, I'd like to basically what Mike said, I'd also like to thank personally Jack, Barbara, and Heather for all your extra efforts and everything that was put forth to bring Al back. And I think on top of that, we need to be grateful and thankful to the powers that be that Al was so happy to come back. This could have gone a very, very different way. I don't think there's anybody out there that could have picked up these pieces out of the blue the way Al just did and is going to. Yes, I understand there's other companies that do this for a living, but nobody knows our system like Al does. And between the COVID-19 and our particular situation all happening at the same time, I just think we should all be extremely grateful as the situation has unfolded the way it has. And thanks to everybody who helped make that happen. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. John, you're back.
I'm back. Look, this is one of my laptops that had smoke damage, so I could lose you all at any point in time again.
Okay, we're just looking for a comment on our last discussion that we just had.
I did have an additional comment when it's free.
Hold on one second, Brett.
Yep.
John, we're talking about the temporary contract, but let's go back to Brett. Go ahead, Brett.
I guess what I wanted to talk about, and we're probably going to talk about this later, was how we can translate. Basically, I'd like to find a way to keep Al and this new company on board through the next year is obviously our goal.
We're going to discuss that in the next section.
Sounds great.
John, comments?
Yeah, I'm very pleased with the fact that Al was able to take this on, and thank you, Barb and Jack. And I'd like to have a long-term relationship with Al if that's possible.
I think we lost him.
No, he's back. John, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here, but you know what? I think I'm going to be going in and out.
Okay. Okay. Heather, you're the last one. Your comments on it? Sorry. You there, Heather?
Heather, you're muted.
Hold on.
I also want to thank Barb and Jack for all the work that they put into this in that short order to get this together.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Anything else?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman? Just one technical question. We're not going to go through the contract, but on page 2 of the contract, item, I think it's XM, does that make sense? XM dot, parts and material for major repairs. I'm not quite sure what that paragraph is meant to say. I can
Barb,
read it. It says parts and materials for major repairs, replacement, and scheduled overhaul shall be borne by the sewer commission. Purchase $1,000 per item, and then it's period. I don't know what is tied to this $10,000.
Jack, that might have been a term that Al or MP had acquired. I'm not sure. That was part of, I think, your conversation with them.
I don't have a good answer for you there. Sorry.
Well, can we follow up on that? Because because it's so unclear. It doesn't seem to be authorizing them to purchase things under 10,000. But then it talks about unless emergency purchase. So I think we should clarify that. Maybe it's just supposed to be 1,000. I don't know. I've never seen a $10,000 figure in any of our documents. So could we follow up, just make sure that there's no misunderstanding?
We sure can.
Thank you.
And Bob, if you can follow up on that, just send an email out to everybody.
Okay. don't know if we went and pursued that with the RFP. And I apologize for the bulleting. That was not how, we had sent MP something with pretty normal bullets. And when it came back, it had a very, they didn't make a whole lot of sense. So I apologize for the bullets, but that came back as a PDF and I didn't have any input in it. So it's an
It's not
odd,
in the, it's not in the RFP.
Right.
Which is why it's,
right. That, some of the things were put in from discussions with MP, and this, again, it was, and I want to hats off to Jack. I really think he's the one that really drove this, and Heather, who had so many other things on her mind and was able to help us get this done and signed. But they came back, and it was important at the time that we just did what we could to get them online.
Okay, we'll just follow up with what Carl wanted and just send it out an
Yeah,
email.
we'll do. We'll make that clear.
Okay, next one. Any other questions on that? Okay, let's move on. The FY budget discussion. This is going to be a tough one, guys, and I just want to take a moment of your time and tell you what I think we should be doing. There is no way. No, go ahead.
it's just, the next agenda item was the RFP.
Oh, I'm sorry. The RFP draft. In your packet, you got a draft of an RFP that Jack and Barbara's been working on. And this is what goes back to you, Brett, what you were talking about.
Yeah.
What I want you to do is take a look at that RFP, do a line item on it, see what you think. Here's your chance to put in your comments and send them to Barbara only. Barbara will take those and either they're going to be incorporated into the new RFP or keep the RFP the way it is. So take a look at it. This is our shot to review it. I'd like to get everything in there by, what's today, Tuesday? And we touched on this yesterday. I'm thinking by Friday, we should have any kind of a document as far as upgrading or changing it. Does everyone agree with that or need more time to review it? We're just talking about the RFP for the sewer pumps right now.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Carl.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I've gone through it in detail and have a lot of, detailed things that I can do what you suggested with Barb. I think, I don't know what the other commissioners will have for, but I think we need to schedule a meeting, if it has to be a special meeting, to review the final document and approve it before it goes out. And this is a Conservation Commission document. So I think we need to make sure and have some ability to discuss it amongst ourselves and debate it. But I have a couple of higher level questions that so that when we review it, we can all be on the same page, at least of what the intent is. So to begin with, is this again meant to be a totally time and material contract?
It should be. With some modifications that we ran into in the past. So an example would be what is 24/7? I'd like to see a definition on that.
Well,
I think Jack and Bob, you guys addressed that by chance? In the
Mr.
RFP?
There's two. Carl's first question about, is it intended to be time and materials? It is, as far as I'm concerned. There's no flat fee and then time and materials over it. An hour on board is an hour paid at the rate.
So Mr. Chairman, that to me is such a fundamental shift in our approach here. So, I mean, the gray area was the 24/7. It's certainly not gray anymore. If it's time and material, it's just, as Jack said, it's just time and material. They show up to do the daily maintenance even. That's time and material. So I'm not at all convinced that that's the best direction for the sewer commission. It's kind of where we were before Small Water and Al got involved to begin with. It didn't work that well. Straight time material. Again, if Al's there, a lot hangs on that, but we know from our experience with Small Water that Al being there today doesn't mean he's there tomorrow. So we can't hang our confidence on a document on the fact that Al's going to take good care of us. So I, for one, am versed a totally time and material contract. I don't know how we're going to control the costs on it. I don't know where One of the biggest advantages to us, we went from, you know, an inside employee who was basically time and material to small water, was the system reliability got better, the call outs got a lot better, and there's incentive not to have call outs. That's why we had the 24/7. You know, if we go time and material and we pay time and a half for overtime and double time and all those things, again, stepping back, forget who the supplier is, make believe the supplier is small water again, it's small water too. I think that is not the bit for our customers.
I think, Carl, thank you for that. I think one of the things, we talked about this yesterday, I haven't even reviewed it yet. I know Mike hasn't reviewed it, and I value Mike's opinion on it as well as Brett and John's. So what you see may not be what it is, but when you run a business, you need a fixed number somewhere. And we cannot run the sewer division on an hourly basis. That is not going to happen. So when you go out for an RFP, we need to know what we're doing. That's what we're going to clean up the scope, but we need time to review it ourselves.
So
We
that's
haven't had
good.
that opportunity yet.
But I'm saying, if, in order to, and I don't want to go through all the detail, but in order to make inputs, such a fundamental decision should be made. If it's going to be time material, then the inputs in the document looks very different than if it's, say, a fixed cost for the you know, the normal you know, maintenance during the week, and then time material, or is it basic, you know, is it a fixed cost for that and time and material after, but maybe there's no overtime or double time? You know, I mean, without knowing the basic objective and structure of the contract, I don't know how we can give Barb inputs that are going to even, you know, if I go through this and I make it back to a fixed price, like you say, Dave, which I think you said, I'll put words in your mouth, but I think you said what I believe is we need to have something that's close to a fixed cost, but with ability for the, you know, for when things happen, that it's not fixed cost, that it can switch over to a time material when properly authorized by DPW or, but if we don't have that fundamental basis of what, you know, what the type of contract is, we're just going to, you know, all put inputs into Barb Friday and then get together the next week and decide that, you know, or Barb will decide, I don't know how to deal with this because I got some inputs against time material, I got some inputs against for
Again, what we're trying to accomplish is look at the RFP and what's good as far as fits into our business model. And it can't be by the hour. There's no way you can budget by the hour. There's just no way. But you can put the mistakes that were made on the first RFP and enhance that. And that's what I thought we did. I mean, I haven't seen the new RFP yet, but I want to take the old contract, even if we go back to the first year that we did it, and enhance that and catch all the gray areas. But to do an hourly rate, that's not going to work. Not my opinion. And Mike, what's your comment on that?
I agree as far as the time and labor. I'd like to see, you know, on maybe an overrun that would be involved. But as far as the contract itself, you know, I would like to just see, you know, our demands basically, or what we're looking for. One thing, and I haven't even had a chance to look at it, honestly, but I really think the system started falling apart when they stopped calling the 5 days a week. You know, it's 10 stations. I don't think it's asking all that much to have them looked at every day. From what I know of, you know, it got down to sometimes 2 times a week. To me, you know, something's checked on Monday, you're coming back Thursday, that turns into a major problem, and therefore that's where we ended up where we were. So I'd like to see, make sure we got it covered that every day and go back to some form of a reporting system, even if it's like just a clipboard in there that they check in when they're there, what they did. But we can get into that later. So, but as far as, you know, that's where I'm at. That's what I'd like to see, because there's no guarantee we're getting out. So.
Brett, have you had a chance to review it?
I haven't had a chance to look at it. I have it in front of me, but I've barely glanced over it, so I don't have a lot of comment, except I would like to agree with Michael on the 5-day-a-week inspection with some kind of recording. I think it's a very good idea. But that's about it right now.
Jack, any comments?
I'd like to have you all review it and look for your input. It's a, you know,
Okay, Heather?
Same, to receive input back on it so we can finalize it.
What do you feel about the hourly rate versus the contract rate?
So there was a comment about you feel like you're going back to what it was like prior to Al coming on. So what was the contract at that point?
It was an employee
Okay.
in-house.
So then shifting from an employee to an outside service, it went to a time and materials.
Well, I never did.
No, it went to the contract price.
Went to the contract, and we saved, like, I think, $100,000 in the budget by doing that. I think we gotta look at it again as a business, you know? My opinion. But like Jack said, let's all look at it. And how soon do we need this thing finalized, Heather?
So it'd be, once it's finalized, be putting out to bid for at least a month and then give it another month for review and award.
How soon do you need it to go
July
out?
1st.
What's your deadline to get it into your hands for going out to bid?
Well, the sooner the better, I would say. Hopefully by next week, maybe can be finalized.
Well, today is April 5th, 14th, right?
Mhm.
You have a calendar, Heather?
Yes. So. So is 1 week enough time?
Well, we got John coming on right now. John, you there again? Hold on, John.
Unmute.
I'm trying to unmute him. I can't unmute him.
Now, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, we're just going over the RFP,
Yep,
and we're looking to put a deadline on it. I haven't reviewed it yet. Kyle brought to our attention that it's an hourly contract. We're just discussing that right now, but we need you to take a look at it, and Heather's going to give us some dates when she needs the final copy in her hand by.
okay.
Heather?
I haven't read it yet, but what are we going to pick for a deadline?
Yeah, that's why I'm waiting for Heather to respond.
Okay,
I said, is a week enough time?
I think a week is fine.
I'm sorry. what was that?
a week's okay with me.
Yeah, week's good with me.
I'm good with the week.
That means it's not, we have to schedule a meeting then, because we have to vote on this.
Yeah, we will.
Okay. So I just want to make sure when people said it's fine, that people mean they can be available for a meeting a week from now or whenever.
So when do you want all the final drafts sent over to Bob by? Friday?
No, I would say, I mean, literally a week. So,
The 21st?
yeah, because Monday's a holiday.
What's Monday?
Yeah, what's Monday?
Okay.
Patriots
was it?
Day.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Not every day was a holiday.
All right, so Jack and Bob, does that sound good to you guys?
I want you guys to be comfortable with it. If it's a week, if it's, 2 weeks, I want you to be comfortable with it. The current supplier is on board, understands the timing. If we have to go a week or two or whatever longer, it's fine. It's an emergency contract. So I think what's most important is that the commission is comfortable with the RFP, that everyone, not just the commission, that town manager's comfortable with it and I'm comfortable with it. Not that I have a vote, but we have to eliminate those gray areas. And to the extent that that can happen, whether it takes a week or not, I think more important to have you guys be happy with it.
All right, so let's shoot on trying to get our drafts over to Barbara by the 14th. Does that sound good to everybody?
21st.
21st, I mean, I'm sorry.
21st is good.
That's okay, yep.
Which means you guys are gonna have to hunker down and read it. And Kyle, just to let you know, we are all still busy. I know you're home, but we've all been, Brett's still working, Mike's still working, I'm still working, and I know John's got other issues to worry about beside this. So I appreciate your comments, but we haven't got a chance to review it like you have. Any other comments?
Yeah, no, and that's fine. That's fine. I don't,
Okay.
I'm just concerned about how we get from here to there. So if we have the comments in by the 21st, I think you said, when would we schedule a meeting? And everybody's busy. as you
Probably do a
said, so-
meeting on Thursday, just so that Barbara can put time to put everything together. Set up a conference call in the afternoon like we're doing today.
I can do that.
Is that agreeable to everybody, Mike?
When we look at Thursday, this Thursday,
No, Thursday the 23rd,
the 21st. So,
23rd.
2-3.
okay. Yeah,
Thursday.
no, I'm good. You lost me a little bit because I thought we were trying to get it in by the 21st.
No, just the revision so we can have a
Just
template to work
and
with.
have a meeting over it. Okay, no, I'm good.
Yeah,
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I think the beauty of what Jack's accomplished with getting Al back on board here is, it sounds like if we use the month for proposal, for getting the bid out, getting bids in, and then a month, for prepare. Even if we go a few days past the beginning of July, we've got a nice backup. So important. that we
Actually,
get this
I think, Jack, I'm losing you again, Kyle. Kyle, you still there?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, okay.
I just saying, we thanks to the what Jack and the team put in place here with Al, we're not as much under the gun as we might have been. So contract, they'll support us until we get someone else. So I think taking the time to do this right is more important than rushing to a deadline. So, but
You know what, Kyle, I totally agree with you on that one. I think we got to do it right this time, so. And not that we didn't do it wrong last time, but we can make some modifications.
Yeah.
But any other comments, Mike,
good. So we have a plan.
Thank you.
Brett, John,
I think we're all set.
Jack,
Good.
Barb, and Jerry Mathers as Heather. Heather, you all set? Okay. Next subject, 21 budget discussion. Well, we've all been in business. I know Mike and Brett and John, I'm not sure of your background, but doing budget during this kind of a economy is going to be tough. If you look where we left off on our budget, we're getting ready to go ask the town for a $400,000 increase, which I don't favor at all. So what I'm going to propose something real quick, and that is to take our present budget, which I know we have meetings and so on, and I think this is going to have to be really put on Heather's plate with Barbara, and I feel sorry to say that, Heather, but you have an expertise on this. But I would look at an increase of 10% across the board, keeping in mind that we can't use large expenses going forward after this. Let it go where it goes, take money out of retained earnings and make up the difference until we know exactly what Lemus is doing and where we are. I think if we go to the town and say we need $400,000 now, we're all gonna look like donkey meat. And it's not the right thing to do. Again, I'm just going by my opinion. I think the budget has to be looked at. I think it has to be looked at more carefully. I think it's gotta be cleaned up a lot. I think it's gotta be made more simpler, because I'm still confused on it and I don't know how you guys feel, which I'm gonna go around the horn in a second. But that's my opinion on it. And I wanna go to Heather and let Heather put in her opinion as well, since she's gonna be the one that is going to enforce this. Heather?
I mean, I think I would go through just a more succinct process than what you typically do with your budget. As you know that you're going to be looking at your revenue projections what your anticipated receipts will be for fiscal 21 and what that impact will be. So you're gonna have to adjust those. And your expenses are your expenses. So with the new contract, maybe that's gonna change, but you have projections on the other numbers, I believe.
Barbara, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, it is a weird time right now. Revenues, who knows? I don't know how things are gonna pan out. As far as expenses, our biggest chunks, which is the pump station coverage and the Leominster usage bills, are still unknown at this point because Leominster's going over to the INI with the flow, and the costs with whoever successfully bids on the RFP. We just don't know what they're going to come back as. So that's our issue with projecting expenses, and that's, I think, why Dave's idea is to just do a blanket increase on this year until we have a better feel and a knowledge of what we're going to encounter.
The only thing we have and that we know actual when you do a budget is what you have actual. Right now, we're looking into it, we don't even know what our income revenues are going to be, and we're anticipating a deficiency as well as the town. What that's going to be is another question. As far as our expenses, again, we just keep it, even if we go with the outsourcing number that we had, which was 100,000, I think. What you had for outsourcing before? Barb?
That was the amount on the small water contract.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
we're looking to replace it somewhere in the same ballpark, aren't we?
Right.
Okay. So if we do that just for the budget purposes, as far as Leominster, who knows? I mean, Leominster may not be as bad as what we thought. And if it is, we can absorb it. It's just, Heather, I just don't think we should be going to, I know what you're saying as far as you can do that part of the contract. And when it comes to the other ones, do we just guesstimate? Is that what you want us to do on the budget?
Your normal process that you would use for your expenditures. I mean, if you have contract prices,
Right.
those.
Which we don't have yet, but we will, as far as when the RFP goes out. So if we use the same numbers plus 10% of last year, I feel comfortable with that. You know, and as far as the water bill to Leominster, you know what? You can talk to Kyle. He'll say it's $480,000 or $550,000. I don't know, and that's going to be the biggest problem, is trying to decipher what the bills are going to be. Now, keeping in that same frame of mind, let's go back to Barbara. She talked with the DPW or the sewer guy in Leominster. So Bob, why don't you explain what happened with that call?
Just talk to Roger about when the timing. It was more timing. The idea that we're going to the flows per meter is done deal as far as FY21 is concerned. I'm still trying to get him to make sure he doesn't start it for our last quarter of FY20. So it is what it is for FY21, except we don't know what it is. We had a long conversation about what we were doing on trying to determine the INI, but we don't have a number for sure. And that's the difficulty with taking our FY20 contract or budget and just hitting it at 10%, is you've got two great unknowns. But
So let's bring this around. Carl, what's your comments on it? And talk closely to the microphone if you could.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think there's a lot of work been gone into this budget, and I think we have a very good handle on what the costs are going to be next year. We've estimated that the service contract for the operations was going to go somewhat, which it for sure is. A lot depends on time materials versus not, but I did take a look at if it went time and materials and was no worse in terms of hours than small water was doing, which was not so great. It's it comes out a little bit better. I think we have, Barb, correct me, I think we have $150,000 in for that contract. Is that correct? Or does that include the generators also?
Barbara, you're on mute.
Dave, I think you have to unmute her.
No, I'm good. Sorry, yes, I think that was including all pump stations.
And generators?
Yes.
Okay, so then it's not so much, so it's not so comfortable. So I think the 150 we have in there is a good number. It might be a little light, might be a little bit heavy, but it's based on actuals and what Small Water was charging. So I think that is not an unknown. It might be 150 plus or minus 10%, but I don't believe it's 100 plus 10% by any way. The other big unknown is the Leominster. And again, we put a lot of work into that, 3 years of data of what we're actually sending to Leominster. And, you know, took out the bumps and tried to average that out and determined what I think, and Barb and I did it both independently and came, you know, within less than around 5% of each other at the new figure, counting on Mr. INI. So I think that there's nothing more that we can do to estimate that any better. We know what we're going to send them for INI. If we don't improve it, we're not going to improve it between now and the beginning of the year. So I think the Leominster number is very solid. As Barb said, maybe we can get the increase pushed out of this fiscal year, but it's highly unlikely that we'll be able to get into next fiscal year without that increase hitting us. And that's what we're talking about now. So I think the budget that's put together right now is pretty damn good in terms of a prediction based on a lot of history and facts. So I think what we have is the number. I think we will be way underestimating, and I personally couldn't support just, you know, hitting our old budget with 10%. We simply know it's not going to be that good, and I don't know how much more work we can do into it now until we have some other indications. We'll get another, maybe Barb already has it, another quarter of INI, so we can check how the INI is doing, but you can't look at one quarter. We know that the quarters vary quite a bit, which is why we looked at 3 years. So I think the budget we have now is very good. I'm encouraged that we can hold the system operator. Before this call, I was going to advocate based on my math that we maybe a little light on that system operator, but now that you tell me we have a good chance of getting Al back on board, it has to bid on it, but hopefully he wins. Then I think the number is good. So the only thing that really is left outstanding is how do we manage the deficit? I don't see anything relative, and really I've looked at a lot of finances on the town side, and there's a lot of variability, as Heather can tell you, on the town side due to the COVID virus. I don't see any variability in our forecast due to COVID. If somebody does, then enlighten me, please. But I'm not seeing, short of people maybe not being able to pay their bill, but the revenue is going to be based on the water they use, and I don't think people are going to use any less water because of the virus. Maybe they'll use, if they wash their hands well, maybe, and they're all home washing hands and flushing, water usage may go up, which would help. But I don't see how we can do any better with more effort. I think the decision now is what do we do with the deficit? And while I'm on, I'll give you my opinion on that. Is I don't think it's wise or fair to our customers or the system to take the deficit out of retained earnings. Our retained earnings are calculated going down every year. Our debt service is more than our debt revenue. So, and we didn't do the prediction last year, but every year I did the prediction looking at the future income out 5 or 6 years. Our retained earnings drops to a fairly low level. It's a little better than it was 4 years ago. It's better than that, but it still drops to a level that's a third of what it is today. And I would not want to get below, it drops to like around 600,000. We should do that math. Maybe that's the one thing we could do is take a look at the retained earnings projection based on our discrepancy between debt service and debt payment, and see where it is. Because the retained earnings is the only place we have to support major capital needs. If we have whole pump stations go down or pumps go down and it isn't just the pump anymore. We know how much the pumps cost, but nowadays, our electronics is also out of date. I mean, you're going to be talking about upgrading an entire station, and that's hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I don't think we can allow our retained earnings to up below some number, and I think it's in excess of $500,000. So long story short, I think the budget we have now, the cost and revenue side has been well worked by Barb and the whole team. And I think it'd be a mistake and short-sighted to take the shortfall out of retained earnings.
Hey, Barb, you have your hand up?
I did. I just wanted to correct the what I said about the amounts we have in the current FY21 draft budget. It is 150 for the system, and it was 12,000 for the generators.
Good.
So 162. Beyond that, we had the 150. Then we also had the 50,000 in infrastructure for just those types of in emergencies, unpredictable.
Barb, what's our balance in the retained earnings as of right now?
Last time it was certified, it was 1.9 million.
Okay. Mike, your comments on the budget?
I'm good with the 10%. My feelings are we really don't know that number. I'm just an advocate, I guess, of not going to our customers with a number until we know that number and we're comfortable with it. I don't see it as being as high as we're predicting. It's a lot of money until we dive into it a little more. And once we do have a contract, so we have a fixed price for at least the next 3 years, I guess, 10% is going to be good for now. At least it moves things forward,
Thank you. Brett?
Well, I guess my big concern is 10% might not be enough. Like everyone's been saying, we really don't know the number. But I would have to agree with 10% as things stand. I just, of course, have the same concern as everyone else that it's not going to be enough. Or let's hope it's more than enough, but then we go back and adjust from there and everyone's happier, I suppose, in the long run. But my concern is 10% is not going to do the trick, and then we're going to have to go back next year and say, oh, by the way, sorry. But under the circumstances with the virus, everyone's hands being tied in so many different directions, I think there'd be a certain amount of understanding out there as well. So I'm on board with the 10%.
Thank you, Brett. I just want to make a quick comment. You're right. I agree with everything you just said. I think what we got to do as a business is, and not to be sarcastic, but flush the system. Let's let the system see where we are, see what the real numbers are. I still don't know what real numbers are. I think our budget process is not the greatest in the world. I think we got to take a look at it as a business and make it more refined. But I really think we need to see exactly what is going to happen. And we got hit with a lot of items at once. And that's what we're trying to work with. If it was just an SWS issue, fine. If it was just a Lumister issue, fine. It's everything coming together. It was like the perfect storm. So thank you for your comments, Brett. John?
Well, this is one I keep going back and forth on. Big increase right now, I think, would be pretty tough for a lot of people to swallow. And it would definitely not be good if we have to roll that back because we go too high. I don't mind dipping into retained earnings in the short run, knowing full well that, you know, in a year from now, if we find the real numbers, and the real numbers are a $400,000 shortfall because of Leominster, then, you know, we have to keep in mind, then the rates are going to have to go up. So I just don't want to keep dipping into retained earnings every year to make up the difference.
You know, and I appreciate that, John. I think if you look at, if we're going to be paying Leominster $500,000 or $600,000 a year, is there something wrong with that picture, guys? Am I missing something? I mean, we can go out and build our own wastewater treatment plant over a period of 20 years. I mean, that's a lot of money for a year. So just think about that. Jack, you got any comments?
Well, you know, I'm going to defer the budget discussion to the commission and to Heather at this point, not on the budget, whether we go retained earnings, whether we have a realistic number. I think that's something that really, you know, my opinion isn't worth that much in terms of what the commission is going to vote upon and end up with a final budget. I have to be happy with the infrastructure and the maintenance part of it. So I'll be looking at that closely. But in terms of the decision whether to charge for that extra money in the I&I, to, you know, adjust fees, rates, and that's entirely at the pleasure of the commission.
Thank you. Heather, I guess the bottom word is we need your help on this to give us some thought. We got a lot of smart minds here. Let's give it some thought. I mean, I know we'll work our way through it, but I have, not like Carl, I'm not trying to diminish what you said, but I have no problem taking money out of retained earnings to get us through this crisis, what we're doing. And I'm not saying there's not going to be an increase. There will be an increase, that's for sure, just not today. I think it's wrong for us to go out there and send that message out to the people, my opinion. Heather, any comments?
Oh, just that I'll take a further look at the sewer commission's budget, work with Barb and the finance director, and provide any recommendations.
Well, I know I got an email, or we got an email, there's a presentation to the finance committee. And I just want to make sure, you know, we got this down pat. You know, everybody's worked so hard to get to this point, and to go to a finance committee and say we need X, Y, and Z, and it doesn't come true. That's just as bad, you know, and I don't want that to happen. You know, we're all.
Oops, sorry, Chair.
No, go ahead.
Barb, send me the latest budget version. Just make sure I have most up to date.
Okay, so we'll wait for our next meeting to bring up budget. Bob, can you throw that on the next meeting? Obviously. And if you guys have any questions in the meantime, Bob, feel free to reach out to any one of us with questions, you know. Okay, next one. Anything else? We're going to move on.
Well, yeah, Dave, going back to what you said, that, what was it, the $500,000 to Leominster, that's a lot of money. It is, but I mean, it's based on the agreement that was written, what, 8 years ago, 10 years ago? I'm not saying we shouldn't look at it some more, but it is what it is until we can renegotiate that. And I don't see that coming down even next time we have to renegotiate.
No, and I appreciate that, and I agree with you 1,000%, except that when you're paying $200,000 or $300,000 a year, and then we knew this was coming for years now, we knew this was coming, to go from the $300,000 to $550,000, whatever it is, in 1 year that's what I'm kind of concerned of.
Right, in 1 year, yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, but if we can go back to Leominster, and even if it's going at the end of the day, they're going to do it, that's fine. But maybe we can gradually build it in. In fact, Jack and I talked about this before. Maybe we can go a third, and third.
Right.
Just so that we have a manageable handle on this. But this is just, I mean, we're going to go to the people in Lunenburg and say, hey, by the way, guys, we're going to be one of the highest sewer rates in the state of Massachusetts once we approve this. You guys aware of that?
I thought we already were, actually, but.
This will put us over the top. So, I mean, if it was me at home, and John, you should be looking at this and saying like, well, why the hell is it so much money? And the first thing they're gonna look at is, how is our system run? What's going on with the system? And it's not like we're getting rich off of this, guys. You know, I mean, it is what it is, and you're absolutely right. But you like to see it done gradually. If
Yep.
I go to my client and said, hey, you know, I've been building your stores for $1 million every year, but now that store is going to cost 3, you know, they're going to look at me and laugh, you know? So I just think the fair thing to do is look at it and go through a cycle and see where we are. And maybe Biden and talk to Lemonster and see what they can do to help us out. I mean, it is what it is. You're absolutely right, John. But I don't want to see you go through an
Mr.
increase.
Chairman?
Yes, Carol.
I'd just like, just for the record, because numbers are being thrown around and this tape will be replayed. You're technically correct that the number to Lemonster went up from 3,000 to 542. However, only 178 of that increase was due to the I&I issue. The rest of the increase was actually the Fitchburg line item was way higher than it should have been. The Fitchburg line item actually went down from 230 to 170. So the Lemonster issue, I&I issue, is creating $178,000 of our problem. Everything else is strictly Lemonster's rate increases and putting the money in the right line item.
I think at the end of the day, and in any business, when you run a business, when you're running it lean and tight, you have to control what you can control. And the first thing that people usually control is payrolls. Second thing is services and how can you save money there. And that's what we've been looking at. We got to look at the whole operation and see how we can save. But in the meantime, we have to have a system that's reliable, which I'm glad Al's back. So everything goes into a circle, and that's how it works in business. Any more comments on that? We lost John again, guys, just to let you know.
I had a quick question. At Assumption, obviously you haven't been able to meet with the mayor of Lemonster. Is there any chance of some sort of phone conversation with him, some kind of phone meeting or meeting like this with him?
You
That
know,
might be productive, or do you think that would be anti-productive?
I think and again, I'll leave that up to Mike if you want to talk to our connection there in the city of Leominster. I think a lot of people right now are concerned about their cities. You know, he's worrying about running his city. Same thing with Heather. I'm not to use her as a ruse, but I mean, I don't think Heather really wants to sit there and talk about a sewer when she's got other things working on with FEMA, MEMA. And if you guys know Dean, and I know Jack, you know Dean, he's out there right now working the streets, working with FEMA, trying to get as much as he can for his city, which I applaud him. He does a great job during this stuff. Am I right there, Jack? Or
Oh, yeah, I think so. Yeah. He's always open to discussion, Dave. I found that the case. So this is not obviously the optimum time to do that, but we were about to have that meeting. We were thwarted by this health issue. I think it'd be productive to have that meeting at some point.
I think soon, though. I think, you know, we're trying to get a sense of formality back of running day-to-day operations. And you're still, you know, what do you think, Heather, 4 weeks away, 5 weeks away before Massachusetts becomes normal? And I would love to talk to him before. I don't even know if he'll see us, you know, without a mask and on. And I don't even know if he's working, to be honest with you, or at the city hall. So, but that's something that we can reach out. Maybe Dave can reach out to him. Mike, what do you think?
I think right now, no, I don't think he's gonna. I mean, he's got other focus, and especially there's not a lot in it for him. It's for us.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. It's
I
there's
can.
no woof in there at all.
I won't reach out to him right now.
Yeah.
It's just he's got too much going on. But
Yeah, no, again,
and I wouldn't put a lot of faith into this either. I mean, he's negotiating from a strong point. I mean, he might give some to us, but I'm not expecting a lot. I'll be honest with you.
you know,
I think the most we could expect is a phasing.
Yeah.
He has every faith in Roger, and exactly what you said, Mike. This is not the time. We shouldn't even consider this right now. Consider this in terms of meeting with him. My sense is the the most we could get out of this would be a phasing of the increase, if we could get that at all. So you're exactly right. He has nothing to gain from this. So in my conversations with him, that's always something that's very important to him.
Give me 1 second. Sorry. Okay, no, I agree too. And that's why people's lives right now are more important than which way the flow goes, I guess. And the mayors and the town manager, they're the leaders in these communities, and people look at them for leadership right now. Okay, anything else about budget? Okay,
Is just that the 30th, does that work for presenting? That's the last possible day.
yeah, I guess.
We'll
it's
take
gonna
it.
happen. We may be sitting there going, but yeah,
Okay.
let's schedule it. Let's schedule for the 30th. Okay. Anything else? We're gonna move on. Special legislation. Bob, why don't you go ahead with that one?
Absolutely. That was an act, a special legislation act by the governor. It was approved April 3rd, but it impacted any bills that, well, it was far-reaching, and we're just worried about Section 11, where it impacts our ability to do our demand bills, which were $10 for any bill that's outstanding, and charge interest. And the proposal for statewide is that during the COVID crisis, there'd be no late charges and interest applied. It is a decision that is up to the Board of Selectmen as the chief executive officers of the town, but they would like to have the Sewer Commission's recommendation for approval.
Any comments on that, Carl?
I think we should support it.
Mike?
I'm in support of it.
Brett?
I'm in support of it.
Any comments from Jack?
No, thank you.
Heather? Okay. Next item is third quarter billing. Go ahead, Bob.
This is the commitment. Normally I'd pass it around for your signature. We can do a screenshot. It's not, I don't know if it's key. It's dated always the date of the mailing of the bills. It was for $198,125.96. So we're just looking for your vote to authorize my sending it off to the accountant and the town treasurer for their records on our Q3 billing. And then the next time we do convene in person, I will have you sign off on it.
Was that in the package at all?
No, I prepared it as a screenshot if you want.
My
It wasn't.
preference- Yeah,
It's just, it's our normal, there's one page that goes to Karen and one page that goes to Mylene with the commitment worksheet. I can,
are you looking for a motion on that?
yes, please.
Okay, this will be a roll call vote. All in favor of the billing commitment? Carl?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the building commitment.
Okay, we got a motion out there. Someone second?
I'll second it.
Brett seconds it. All in favor? Carl?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Brett?
Aye.
And I for myself. Motion passes. Okay, year-to-date FY budget expenses through the end of the year. Barb?
FY20. Did I send it as did I do a screenshot of it? Just that Heather had been asking, I think it was, sorry, I've lost myself. Trying to figure out how we were gonna do through the end of the year. I had hoped to send it out. I don't think I did it as a screenshot. I can put it up on the screen now if anybody wants to see. We're still doing fine at this point. The year-to-date, I've got expenses of 714,000, revenues of 745, so we are still ahead. I will be also providing, sorry, I will be shortly starting on the Q4 billing, so that revenue number will go up by another 200,000, and with any luck, we will not have $200,000 worth of expenses. So all things remaining the same, Leominster not starting any initial flow billing, and Al Packard manning our stations, responsibly, we should be okay through the end of the year.
Okay. Any questions on that? Start with Jack, start with Carl, I'm sorry.
Barb, in that estimate going forward, I think the number was before, but what's in there for the system operator?
The 714 is the actual at this point, what we've spent to date. So
No,
what do you
but
mean, as far as what's budgeted or what's expended?
What is the projected expense for the rest of the year?
Well, we did a purchase order for 25,000. That's our hope, that we've taken out the Swiss contract amount, and we've assumed, or we have estimated, that the cost for the stations would be no more than 25,000. All things.
Okay, so a quarter of the 100,000 is a quarter, but at least makes sense at that price. And is there anything for materials and other subcontracts?
As far as parts purchasing, you mean?
Yes.
That, Jack, I would have to defer to you if you've heard anything recently about what might be coming down the pike.
We're looking at, I have to have a conversation with the new supplier, starting from scratch, do an inventory of what we have, what we think we might need before the end of the fiscal year. When we were asked to give these numbers, I thought it was prudent just to give the numbers based on the contract. And we did add in a couple of emergency calls per week. And that's how we came to that number. So was there a big expense to replace parts or to refurbish our supply? The answer is no. I'd like to look at that as we get closer to the end of the fiscal year.
Right, good. Thank you, Jack.
Carl, again, we're losing your voice there, if you're gonna move closer when you talk.
Yep.
Mike? Comments?
Nope, all good.
Brett?
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
Any comments on what we just talked about?
I do not.
Okay. You don't need a motion for that. You're all set there, Barbara.
No, we're all good.
Okay. Next one we're talking about is articles for the town meeting. Everyone got a copy of that in their package?
Yeah, and that's on there just to make sure. We had to add that fourth article kind of as an emergency ad when I got a different directive, I guess, through the town accountant. So we were just hedging our bets. We're just trying to make sure that if it does look like we have to have money by the end of the year, that we have the opportunity to do so. But hopefully it will not have to be used. So it was just to finalize that, because at the last meeting of the commission, we had only approved 3 articles. The fourth was approved by single vote, getting input from a majority of the commission. So we were able to get that into the warrant before the deadline, barely.
Heather, I'm going to refer to you on this. Are you happy with that? That'll help us through any kind of borrow money if we need it. Are you muted? Hold on.
Yes. No, it's on there in the event it's needed. So if
You happy with it?
needed, it can be tabled.
Okay. Any questions on that? Mike?
No.
Carl?
No.
Brett?
That's it.
All set? Okay. Town elections. We have 4 openings. And I think the plan that we talked about, and I wish John was on the line, and I talked to him the other day, he's still going for what he said. I'm going to go for the 1 year. Brett, you're going for the 3 year. I think John's going for the 2 year. Mike, you're going to sustain and get reappointed after and see what happens at town caucus if anybody does a name. Is that correct?
Workaday, yeah.
Workaday. So that's our plan. Carl, I know you're leaving. When are you leaving, Carl? The end of the year?
It's
That's calendar. Is that May 12th? Guys, excuse me one second. I gotta get a
to be determined.
Hold on. So my computer has exactly 2.5 hours.
We can do it.
Sorry about that. Hey, Carl, sorry. You there, Carl?
Yeah, I am. Yeah. Maybe you didn't hear me. I have not determined the date of departure yet.
Well, I know it was originally on election day, so you want to hang in there until election day? Which I have no clue when that is.
Yeah. We know the latest estimate. Yes, I will certainly hang in at least through election day.
Right, so Heather, have we had any information on when the election day is going to be?
It's June 20th.
Is there a town caucus this year?
Has been rescheduled for May 13th.
You're probably going to reschedule that too, right? Probably. Yeah.
To be determined.
I like to put you on the hot seat like that. This is
Yeah.
some reaction.
I can't say. That's up to the governor.
This chair, through you, just on that point for clarity. I may be wrong, but I thought that the May 13th, assuming the governor doesn't change anything else, if all of the things stand now, that based on our election date, that the May 13th was the latest it could be.
No, I believe it on the 20th is the actual latest date that it could be. It has to be 31 days prior to. It's.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I believe
So we
it's
could go one more week.
1 week.
Yep, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
If I may, I'd just like to clarify that I say workaday. I have no intentions of leaving until we get this rate increase and get things back on track. And at that point, then I'll make a decision. So,
Until you're replaced. I know, we understand.
okay,
So you're on for at least a year.
Probably.
it could be, but workaday though.
Hey, whatever floats your boat, Mike.
Is there a stimulus package for that?
All right.
What was that?
Hold on 1 second.
I thought you're supposed to turn off all devices.
You know what? I got other things going on. Okay. Okay. I'm not good at it, but anyways. All right, 1170 Mass Ave. Everybody get that in their agenda?
Yes, and may I speak, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman?
That's
I
what I'm
just
reading.
received the memorandum that we were hoping to get before the meeting for review, so no one's had a chance to look at it. I just checked my email and Outlook has downloaded and given me emails. So there you go. We could put it on the agenda for the next meeting. If we're having one next Thursday, we could take a look at it.
Hold on. Does everybody have this? Because I like to put this to bed now. And Bob, what is this? Just why don't you fill us in?
This is the covenant that the council was going to devise in order to cover the commission and on the agreement or the vote that they had taken on at the meeting with Michael Ray Jeffries.
Well, I think the discussion of the meeting is not that. I think it's what do we want to do? Kyle put a request out there for us to deny it, or to reverse it, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, and I did
Um,
bring it forward to the council.
yeah,
And
but we also saw it at our last sewer meeting, and at that time, we all said, let's go back to council and get their recommendations, which we all received.
Okay.
Mike, did you receive that from the lawyer?
I received it, yeah.
Brett, did you receive the letter from the lawyer in regards to 1170 Mass Ave?
There's two items I did not download and copy yet. That might have been one of them.
Okay, so I guess hold on one second. Sorry about that. So I'd like to put looking for a motion out there. Do we accept the rollback or keep it the way it is?
I say we keep it the way it is.
Is that a motion?
Hold back for Michael?
For Michael Ray, the decision that we did with the lawyers.
Yes, I stand by the decision we made that night for the rollback.
So I need a motion on
I
that.
was gonna say, is that a motion?
Yes, that's a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think a motion is required for a vote that's already been approved. But I would like to make a motion.
No, we got a motion now, and I think we should take Brett's motion first, and then we'll bring yours up on a discussion. So I'm looking for a second on Brett's motion.
I'll second that motion.
It's open for discussion. Carl, go ahead.
My discussion was, I don't think a motion is necessary, so I have no comment on that.
Okay, well, I'm going to put a motion in there for the records, and I would recommend that I accept a motion to accept Brett's motion as far as keeping it the way it is. All in favor? Brett,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Carl?
Nay.
Aye for myself. Motion stands. So now, Barbara, that paperwork that you received from the lawyer,
yes,
that's the covenant, right?
that is the covenant. And I just received it. I have not reviewed it. I was just trying to get it out to you as quickly as I could, but no one's had a chance to really look at it. But this is what council is putting forward based on the vote that was taken on February 11th.
So we'll take a look at it and we can fill that out and do it at our next meeting. Is that okay? Is that agreeable to everybody? Brett?
I'll take a look at that. Yes.
Hey, Mike?
Yeah, works for me.
Carl?
Yep.
And I for myself, and we'll take a look at it.
So, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
Before we move off this agenda item, I do have a motion I would like to make.
Yep.
And the motion would be that based on the council's guidance and the legal principle of fairness, I move that the sewer commission approve the connection of 170 Mass Ave to the sewer main via its easement acts of Mass Ave now or at a time in the future when requested by the owner. And if I may explain why, the significance of that motion, Mr. Chairman.
No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
All right. Yeah, I mean, basically, to me, it puts a ribbon on this issue. First, at the time of the initial betterments assessments, this property was rightfully assessed, and a sewer betterment, was issued to the property owner, and the property owner has faithfully paid that betterment to this point. The assessment of the sewer commission. After the assessment of the sewer commission passed a regulation that changed and created a prohibition of connection via easements, thereby prohibiting connection of the sewer. So, after we assessed, we then completely unintentional, without even knowing the impact, we made that illegal. The town council has recently reviewed this case and determined that through application of the legal principle of fairness, the sewer commission could allow connection of this property via an easement without a change to either the regulation or the bylaw. Fourth, the commission voted to not move this lot from the sewer service area to allow for future connection to the sewer system. So that vote was taken a few meetings ago. The current homeowner has also specifically requested that the parcel not be removed from the sewer service area, as they or the next owner may want to connect to sewer. Sixthly, when asked if the sewer commission would approve a connection of this property via the easement, the commission unanimously indicated that they would support such a request if made. The sewer commission has already spent over $2,000 researching the facts and opinions in this case, and would probably spend at least that much in the future should a requirement to connect. And then finally, the sewer commission is fully up to speed. The current sewer commission is fully up to speed on this issue and best prepared to make this long-term and proper decision to allow this property to connect via the easement now or in the future. You know, as such, and based on these facts, I feel it is in the best interest of the owner and the town that a clear position regarding this property's right to connect now or in the future be established and documented to avoid future issues that could cost the town sewer users additional disruption and legal fees. This does not affect the final decision of the sewer commission regarding the manhole. It is not related to that nor affect that. It just addresses what everyone envisions will be a question in the future, and in fact could significantly benefit the owner should they choose to connect, or at the time of sale, the value of the property. So for all those reasons, it's appropriate for the commission to complete this research that's been extensive and the education we've all been through. That even if we put the payments on hold, I think it's appropriate and in everybody's best interest that we document the fact that at least this current sewer believes that that property should have the ability to connect in the future if they so desire. And that's basically the motion. And I'd appreciate any discussion on that. Or I guess I first appreciate a second.
Can you repeat that motion?
Thank you.
The motion was, thank you. I almost. Okay, based on the council's guidance.
No, I'm good.
Oh. I'm sorry, Mike.
No.
The motion was just the first sentence. That all the rest of that was why I think it's appropriate that we just put the bed and say, okay, whether the payments continue or not, and they won't, based on what you guys have decided, and that's fine. Let's make a clear determination and give that property the future ability to connect without going through this whole exercise again and coming before sewer commission, who may not have the facts, may spend another $4,000 or whatever to research the facts, just to do what we believe, and when we did the assessments, we believed to be correct, that property should be able to connect to sewer.
If I can, I think when we talked about this and we worked the deal with Michael Ray when he came in, that's exactly what we did do. We told him to stop the betterment payments now. If he wants to redo in the future, and if you remember, our goal was not to take his house out of the sewer area. We wanted to keep it in the sewer area. But I haven't read the document from the lawyer yet that we agreed upon on the night of the March 10th meeting, I think it was. So I think for you to put a motion out there like that without us looking at what the lawyers wrote up, I think we should table that until the next meeting. But again, I don't know what the lawyers just sent us 2 minutes ago.
What the lawyers sent us, Dave, as I'm saying, this motion really has nothing to do with the question or decision to put the payments on hold. And what the lawyer just sent out was basically the terms and conditions and covenant to document that agreement. So that's completely different. What this motion says is, because right now the homeowner couldn't, they'd have to come back to ask us if property goes up for sale, there will be this restriction by the regulations bylaw that they can't connect. So what I would like to do is I'd like this commission, while we are fully up to speed and we all understand what's going on and how this happened, I would like this commission to remove that encumbrance upon that property and say that we allow that specific piece of property, not any property, but that specific piece of property that was bettered and paid their betterment faithfully, that we would allow them to connect via an easement. That way it's clean. At some point in the future, if they want to, there's no encumbrance on it. The new owner or the current owner knows they can connect. They don't have to come back to sewer commission again at all, other than to do the connection. And it just makes everybody's life simple, and it just kind of puts a ribbon on this and clarifies the status of that property and doesn't leave it in limbo to some future, commission.
Bob, you got your hand raised?
Do we need a second? Can I interject before?
Yep. That's why.
Okay. It was my understanding, and I'm trying to read Adam's verbiage quickly, that a connection is not allowed at this point in time because of the easement. This is from his email of April 7th. I think everybody got particulars of the similar situated property owners. I had not, sorry, in the small. I also suggested, but admittedly had not researched, that the particulars of the 1170 Mass situation, i.e. property assessed to betterment, subsequently placed within a sewer service area, but later legally prohibited from accessing sewer via easement by bylaw restriction, that no connection shall be allowed via an easement, and a sewer line must remain within the parcel that it serves, would distinguish it from other properties. So based on my conversations with Adam on that, he was going to be allowed to remain in the sewer service area, but at this point is unable to connect. So I would love to see what you're reading from, Carl, and just be able to look at it, and we could run it by council.
Well, I'm reading from the minutes in the meeting that predates that. The night that Adam came, he gave us three options. One was to deny. One was to one was to give ourselves, place a waiver ability. But the other option that he said, due to the legal principles of fairness, because he had been charged a betterment and had paid the betterment, and then subsequently the town did something that made that prohibitive, that we could, as a commission, we could do exactly my proposal. Allow connection via the easement because of the principle of fairness and the fact that he had been paying betterment. And that's
I just had a different conversation.
It's in the minutes. That's why I was looking for the document, but the minutes pretty clearly recorded in that ability. And you're right. Today it's illegal, and that's why I'm saying his counsel was that we could, because of this fairness issue, we could allow the connection. And that's why it's exactly what I'm trying to head off, because as it stands, unless we do this, as it stands, that property cannot connect without going back through this whole process. And I don't know, you could lose a buyer because the system's in failure and they don't have approval.
Remember, excuse me, Carl, I remember when we talked to the lawyers, and there was three options, as Carl said, and we took option 3, which means Michael Ray could stop paying on his betterments as long as he lived there, and he doesn't plan on selling the property. But if he ever did, that if he paid the rest of the betterments off in one payment, then he'll have access to do that. And if I remember, that's what we asked the lawyers to write up. Is that correct, Carl?
No, what we asked the lawyer to write up was what he sent in. But Mr. Chairman, just from a procedural point of view, if I could get a second, we're having the discussion, but never formally got the second. Then we can have a discussion and take, get anybody's input and then take a vote and then move on.
Anybody out there want to second Carl's,
Doesn't mean you have to vote for it.
yeah, no, what do they call it? I forgot what they call it. Motion,
For
sorry,
discussion. Second for
discussion. Brett, you second that?
Well, to be honest with you, if I understand Carl's motion correctly, basically he wants to make sure that down the road so they can reconnect if they decide to catch up on the betterment funds, to have the ability to reconnect without having to go through a series of meetings. I thought we voted for that already on March 10th, but maybe I was wrong. That was my understanding, that
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
it was left open.
Yeah, Brett, you're exactly right up to the last point. We implicitly did because we voted not to remove it from the sewer service area. So that might be what you interpreted as, making this vote, but it wasn't this motion that he cannot connect. We did not do this yet. And that's what I'm saying. I want to clean this up and make it ability for him to connect. And again, whether the vote passes or not,
Then I second your motion.
thank you, Brett.
Then I second Carl's motion.
Carl, you okay? Carl?
Yeah.
No, you look
Think
like
so.
you're shaking. You okay?
Oh, no, my foot's twitching.
Okay.
I'm good. Thank you, Dave.
Mike? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Barb.
Well, I'm just looking quickly at the memorandum that they did send, page 3. Item 4, parties agree as follows. The property owner acknowledges and agrees that hereafter the property will no longer be eligible for a sewer connection and or entitled to sewer capacity. And as allowed for in the SSA. So I believe that is the council's understanding right now, that they are unable. I would go tread lightly because I don't think council is on board with them being able to connect at this point.
Why don't we ask that question to council and before we take a vote on it and see if it's allowable? I think council made a mistake then that night at the meeting. That's the way I understood it. Do you guys remember that at all? Mike?
I agree. I had the conversation with Adam after it, and I went in under the same assumption. And he said, no, that the easement was in place. There is no grandfathering on an easement, only zoning can grandfather. So I stood corrected. And so I think we need to involve council if we want to issue him the opportunity.
I don't want to spend a lot more money on this. I would say, and guys, let me know what you think. Just send the council that night, show them the minutes. Can we do it that way? That's what I would do. This is what he said at it says comments in there, Carl, in the minutes. Adams.
Yes,
So
yes, it clearly says this. What you and I heard, Dave, that, clearly, now maybe it's changed, that was that night and this is today. But at that time, he was very clear that one of the options we had, because of fairness.
I mean, I would just get a clarity on that then before we make a vote on this. I appreciate what Carl's saying. You want to make it right, but let's do it right by just, why did Adam tell us that? That's all.
Yeah.
It's either yes or no.
I absolutely agree. I absolutely
His
agree.
explanation was that if in the future, the property behind the 1170 was to connect, then they would be allowed to connect. So we didn't want to totally take it out of the realm of possibilities, but as it stands right now, he cannot connect via easement.
That's true, and that's what this motion is for, is to connect via an easement. You're exactly right, Barb. Today he can't, and that's this motion. But I agree with you, Mr. Chairman. There's no need to rush this. We should do it right, and we should recheck with council on what our interpretation was and whether. And I can send you this motion, Barb, so that you can just run it. It shouldn't cost a lot of money from the look at it and him to determine if that was one of our options or not.
Okay.
All right, any questions from Mike?
I'm just, on this motion, my only question would be, right now, Michael Ray is not paying the betterment, continue paying the betterment, this motion would make him start paying the betterment again. Am I correct with that?
Mr. Chair, if I may? That's
Go ahead,
certainly not
Carl.
the intent, Mike, at all. The intent is to keep this completely separate from that agreement. Now, if we pass this, it might modify the agreement, and in the agreement, it might specifically say, it should specifically say that should he want to connect, he can because of this vote, but he have to bring up to date his payments. Because that's what we had this, that's what the lawyer said. We could, we can put, because it's being put on hold. And it's on hold until he decides to do something, which would be maybe to connect. At that time, he would then have to pay the full betterment, clearly. But it would not affect the on hold at all.
Which is what we talked about that night with Adam.
Right.
Yeah. I think we go to legal. I'm having a hard time following it. I just think it sounds like a big can of worms, because if we word it that way, that's basically saying anybody on a betterment can put themselves on hold and say, okay, I'm done. And if I do decide to connect, though, I'll give you the rest. So I guess I like it the way it is. That's it, I guess.
But this doesn't change that, Mike, because if somebody has that argument that you just said, they're still going to have it with or without this motion.
Well,
But the point was, and why you suggest we go to council, and what I read council sent in just recently that Barb put in the agenda was that to our question, is this likely or not likely to happen? A case like this that people bring to us, and his assessment was it's not likely to happen because there'd have to be a betterment involved, and it's not clear how many other betterments are.
Yeah.
Involved. Not just betterment involved.
I guess I'm comfortable with whatever, council says.
Yeah.
That's why we got them for.
I think if you look at the draft that I'm looking at with the lawyers, Michael Ray we can act now as far as him not paying the betterment. That's done. But what it doesn't include is when he sells the house, he can't have you put in the sewer, is basically is what it's saying. Which I don't think Michael Ray really cared, do you?
Didn't sound it, but.
So, I mean, it accomplishes what Michael Ray wanted. He's not going to sewer it. What Kyle was saying is what we talked about at the meeting. It's two different things. And the only thing that we have to do is really just check with Adam and say, why would you say that if it's not true? If it's not true, then we go back to the document we got here. It's really that easy.
Yeah.
I agree.
Is that right, Carl?
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
So, I mean, what Kyle's trying to do is say the betterments can stop paying, he starts paying today. But because the way this is written, that if he wants to put sewer in 5 years from now, that property's still gonna have the easement problem. And that wasn't supposed to happen. What's supposed to happen is that he was supposed to go in there, grandfather it back prior to the easement. That's what we thought was gonna happen. Is that correct, Kyle?
I think so, but
Kind of, yeah.
yeah.
So I recommend.
I'm good with going legal. I'm absolutely good with going legal with this.
Yeah, I'm good with legal.
Yeah, I would just say, and I wouldn't I would ask Kyle to take back the motion until the next meeting. And
I prefer that because you as chair can table the motion until the next meeting based on, until we have input from council.
yeah, just table it until the next meeting. And Barbie, you can get an answer on that in a day. I mean, just show Adam the notes and say, we had confusion, that's all. And at the end of the day, it may be what he sent us 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So, any other comments on that? Mike?
Nope.
Brett?
Nope.
Okay. Next item. Inflow infiltration, third party. I'm going to let Kyle and Bob talk about this. I don't know what your work status is now. I know we have a lot of things to do. Kyle is going to be here until June. You want to get through this budget process the next week and then continue, but you guys do that. I'll be right back.
Are we supposed to continue or wait?
No, I think just what is it that, well, I guess, I don't know. It was going to be up to the commission whether we were resuming after,
Can we take this time, Barb, just,
Yep.
just to ask you my technical question. The billing file that you've sent me, that they're pretty simplified, and they have them grouped by Leominster and Fitchburg. And it has reading, the prior meter reading, the irrigation meter, and then it has the net total flow, right? Is that what you, I'd like to put a name on that. Is that the billing file?
it's my access, it's the billing usage file. It's the file that comes out of access of all the usages. So
Okay.
it's the billing usage file.
Billing usage file. Yeah, I just want to get the terminology right so we can communicate. Billing usage file. Okay, great. And is that the same file that you use to do the inflow analysis?
Yes, our comparison sheet.
Yes. So
Yeah.
so your Excel calculation takes the numbers off of that sheet.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so phew, we're almost at the end. So is that the sheet that we would want to standardize on, or have Woodward and Curran use to do the pump station segmentation analysis against?
I was just thinking. It won't include final reads that I've done. It's a quarterly. Trying to think. It'll have little tweaks, but it's the best one we have.
Yeah, and because I mean, it's, you know, and it's, again, this is not going to be an exact science. So minor variations aren't going to really affect it. It's just to give us the sense by pump station zone, so to speak. Just like the inflow and outflow, it's going to be less active than inflow and outflow, but it will. So if we can standardize that, that's the file format that we're going to be doing.
But Carl,
Yeah.
we have one other thing to consider. If I can ever get all my meter IDs updated, that access program may go away. That's a Paula Bertram intermediary software. It takes whatever I get from the Lunenburg Water Department, it imports into Access, which I then use to type in the meters. So if whenever this meter import thing goes through, that usage, that Excel program hopefully would become moot. So it'll work for the next couple quarters until we get this meter import up and running, but it won't be good for going forward. From then on, we'd need a Munis report, probably. Or Northern Data to provide something.
I was going to say, boy, with the Munis, the Northern Data, I would think would.
Yeah.
So the question is, are you guys going to
But
keep?
they wouldn't have they wouldn't have the Leominster water, the Fitchburg water amounts. They only have Lunenburg water.
So the question I got is, do you and Carl want to work on this in another week or so, or are you going to keep the priority what you're doing?
Well, now that you're back, let me just take a couple minutes on the things that we owe our contractor, and see if there's any progress that can be made that won't impact things. The one Barb and I were just talking about is, you know, what billing file would be used going forward for this algorithm that determines the pump station zones. And it sounds like the one that we currently have, the billing usage file, is probably not the correct file. Now, what concerns me is that correct file doesn't exist yet. And so we're kind of in a catch-22. We've got a contract with a supplier to provide us some software based on a file that doesn't yet exist. So we need to wrestle that to the ground, and that ain't going to happen today. So that should stay on hold. The other thing that we owed him was was the manhole rehabilitation project information. And I think I can't see. Yeah, Jack's still with us. Jack, I looked at what you guys did, and they did a great job. It was very detailed. Whoever was out there looking at the manholes did a very nice job with that. And those the raw data from that's been provided to Woodward and Curran. So I believe that's complete. So I'm going to take a position with Woodward and Curran that is complete and take that off the list. They want us to confirm that there's no, or confirm that there's been no pipe rehab work since 2011. And we'll do that right now with Jack.
I already sent them an email on that.
You did? So,
Yeah.
So that's complete. Has there been work or no
No.
work? No, super. That was going to be my assumption to tell them anyway. So great. So that's complete. So we're closed there. I think the next one's just the CCTV videos. We haven't put the stake in the ground, but it sounds like, Jack, that we're at the point where we put the stake in the ground that they can't be found either here or at Weston Sampson, so that is done. It's not complete because they don't exist, but they don't have to look at them either. So is that the right position, Jack? Just tell them we can't find them to get it.
Yeah, I think that's been talked about.
Great. And then the last thing was, and this one, so maybe there's one we could do, and this would be for Barb. The 2011 is when we did the metering of the town, and the base report was done by Weston Sampson for where the I&I was coming from. And Woodward and Curran wants to do a sanity check on that data and look at our billing data in that time period. So if we could simply send them that excess bill usage file for the period that covers from March 19th to May 31st, and it might be one file
2011?
of 2011, that file from 2011.
I don't know when did, I can look. Tell me the dates again, Carl.
It's March 19th through May 31st. I don't know if that bridges a quarter or completely within a quarter.
Of 2011. I don't even know if, I don't remember. I'll have to see what we were using for that quarter, for that year.
Yeah, all they need is, the format doesn't matter, just what the usage was, so that they can take a look at the town metering data and take a look at the usage and see, based on that, what the overall I&I was at that time, how it compares. So
All right.
again, if we
They may have sent that off to Weston and Sampson already.
Oh, okay.
So, because I believe that was when Pat Cotton was asking me for all those pump station destinations. So we may already have provided that at that point. So hopefully it's already,
To Weston Sampson or Woodward and Curran?
no, Weston and Sampson.
Okay, so
So I'll take a
We'll
look
get it.
and see.
yeah. okay.
Otherwise, I was thinking we didn't have, I don't think we were doing access at that point.
I see. In 2011. Okay. All right. So I think that's the only one. If you can find that and just send it, then that hopefully doesn't take a lot of distraction. And then when the things settle down a little bit, we need to wrestle this billing file so that they can start the software, because that getting the data, getting that software program so that we can analyze the pump station zones is really important to trying to find out where our I&Is come from.
Okay, very good, guys. Next thing,
Thank you.
let's talk about minutes approval. Anybody look at the minutes?
I did.
I need a motion to approve the minutes.
You have to say which ones.
I don't have them in front of me. Hold on.
March 10.
March 10th. I have a
Oh,
motion.
those. No, I looked at them. I'll look good.
Motion.
I motion to accept the minutes from March 10th meeting.
Second. Carol,
I abstain. I did not get a chance to look at them, but I don't want to hold it up.
okay, we have to wait because Brett's not here.
Brett's gone. Bob, will you second that?
Dave could second it, right? Can't he?
Why not?
Yeah, I could second it, but we don't have a full, we only get two of the 5 committee members voting.
We get 3 of us, 3 members.
Carl's abstained.
Is that a quorum? Yeah,
Oh.
but I'll
Oh, did we lose Brett?
still vote.
No, I won't abstain.
He's abstaining. So we only have 2
We'll just put it on the next agenda.
put on next agenda.
I'll second that. Hey,
All right.
Brett's coming back.
We got Brett coming back. Hey, Brett.
You're on mute.
You gotta unmute, Brett. You gotta unmute. Whoop, hold on.
There.
You there?
There he is.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
gotcha.
Yeah, sorry about that, everybody.
We're talking about minutes. Did you look at the minutes in your package?
I have not, that's one of them I did not download. Sorry.
We'll put it on the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay, business managers report.
And all I have is just invoices for review. I think I can put them up on the screen if you, I think, right? Can I do that?
I don't need to see them.
Huh?
You had a board member want to see them?
I can tell, I can run through the amounts and kind of explain.
Yeah, you gotta do that.
I'm good with that, yeah.
Okay, we have the normal Fitchburg is 15,472.73. That's the figure that we provided them based on the meters and usage. Woodard and Curran, we received invoice for 5620.72, which was for basically for February. And on it, it said there was a previous invoice outstanding. And unfortunately, up till that point, they had Heather's address. I quickly emailed Lauren and she sent me an invoice for 6423.68. And then I'm not going to worry about it. Just today, we got another one. So there were 2, one for the services through January and one for the services through February, totaling about $12,000 of a $40,000 contract. Wright Pierce, we got a whopping $166 invoice, and I had a Mead Tollerman Costa invoice for $262.25. As long as you're okay, I feel confident. I think Carl would maybe agree that Woodard and Curran has definitely been doing the work behind, the scenes, and I believe they should be paid. So
I agree, Bob.
Is that it, Bob?
is that okay? Everybody good?
Any comments for Bob, Mike,
Okay.
No
Carl?
questions.
Yeah, I'm good.
Brett?
All right. The only other thing was the maintenance plan. I was thinking I'd tap into what Heather might have to say. I know Wright Pierce is waiting for her input. So I sent it to her recently, just as a reminder. So we'll again put that on maybe the next agenda.
Do you, Bob, do you have a copy of the first contract we did with SWS?
Sure,
You send that out to the commission so we can look at it and compare?
absolutely.
Great idea. Thank you, Dave.
You guys take a look at that. We really gotta work on this quick though, but we got time, so it's not a big rush, so.
Barb, could you send it in Word, please?
Send the word. Just if you save it with your own initials or something, so there's not too many Word documents out there. Okay,
Next item is members' agenda inputs for future meetings. Good luck with that, guys. Anybody have any ideas what we want to talk about that we haven't already talked about today? I think we gotta stay on top of this RFP. But go ahead, Brett, I'm sorry.
My only question was, could we meet at like 4 o'clock instead of 3 o'clock?
Yeah, today was we knew, I budgeted in 2 hours for today just because of it. We haven't met and everything going on. So
Okay.
4 o'clock was work with me. How about everybody else? Carl,
No, I think that's fine.
Mike,
This would be for April 23rd.
24th, a Thursday, isn't it?
Thursday is the 23rd.
23rd, I'm sorry, yep.
Is that good for everyone? So this is
Good.
going to be a special meeting. We'll get posted by next Tuesday. Okay. At
And
4
so-
PM.
It's going to be about the RFP.
So our meeting is going to be Tuesday.
No, we got a meeting coming up next Thursday at
Right.
the 23rd at 4 o'clock
Okay.
to discuss the RFP for the town of Lunenburg contract.
And you want the 1170 mass on there in the minutes? Or you just want RFP?
If you get an answer by that day, yeah, I'd like to put this to bed. So if they get back to you with an answer, yeah, let's put it on.
Okay. All right, those are the
Anything
three
else?
items right now.
Is there anything else that we talked about today that we need a quick answer on? I don't think so. No, that's a good idea, Bob. Anything else from the guys? Carl,
Good?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Dave.
Mike? Brett?
Nope, good.
Public comment. Let's start with Carl.
No comment here.
Carl,
Nope, no comment. Thank you.
Mike?
Nope.
I just want to take this moment to say that this has been a real rough ride for the town of Lunenburg as well as the nation and the world. I want to thank you all for helping us support the local community, helping us get through all this with neighbors, helping neighbors. There's a lot more important things than which way our flow goes, and that's taking care of your families and staying home. And that I can't emphasize enough, you guys got to be safe. And that was our number one priority, was to be safe on this sewer commission. And that was the instructions coming from myself to Barb and Jack. And I appreciate you guys doing that. So this has been a rough time for everyone. And I'm glad we had a chance to meet. And I know you guys are still out in the public. And I just want you guys to be safe as far as Mike and Brett. And I know our prayers with John for what he's going through in his personal life. So I just want to take a moment to thank you and pray to God that we all get through this together. And thank you for all your support. And we'll get through this together, guys. I can't thank you enough.
Thanks, Dave.
I'm with you.
So I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Dave.
I'll put out a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, Mr. Luck,
Aye.
Mr. Notes,
Aye.
Mr. Ramson,
Aye.
and I from myself. Barbara, have a good night. If you need anything, please feel free to give Barbara an email. It's very tough to get a hold of us, but if you have any questions, feel free to email her. Is that okay, Barb?
Fine. You can call it, the phone will go right to voicemail and I get an email of it. So you can still call if you'd rather talk.
Okay.
And then I'll call you back.
And Jane, thank you very much. I know you're unmuted over there, but thank you for taking notes, and you too, be careful. God bless, guys. Have a great evening.
Be safe.
Stop work. Yeah, there you go.
Take care, everybody.
See you smiling
Take care.
face. Bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.